welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys podcast, where we explore the omnichannel digital journey of brands and retailers. I'm, of course, your co-host, Sri. And do check out my daughter and singer-songwriter Ria Raj's music at www.riaraj.com. That's RHEARAJ.com. My co-host Brian Gildenberg of the Thursday Gildenberg Omni Comment and Managing Director of Retail Cities, and the host of the CPG Guys Fast Forward, as well as Peter Bond, Partnership Acceleration Lead for Flywheel Digital, are both available today, and Peter happens to be enjoying some delicacies in London, so I wish him the best. Before we get to our guests, let me remind our audience to visit our web browser, www.cpgguys.com, where you can find links to our podcast and all the major and minor podcast platforms. If you're not already doing so, do follow us on LinkedIn, where we publish new comments each and every day of the week, even on the weekends. And we're also proud to be sponsors of Next Up, formerly known as the Network of Executive Women, whose mission is to advance all women in business and to promote gender equality in the workplace. As supporter-level sponsors of Next Up, we are afforded 50 members, which Brian, Peter, and I are looking to allocate to female entrepreneurs or women working at companies that are not currently partnering with Next Up. If you'd like to avail yourself of a membership at Next Up, all you have to do is send us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. Again, that email is contact@cpgguys.com. The digital liner notes of this episode will, of course, contain hyperlinks, as always, to our website, our LinkedIn page, and our landing page on Next Up site. And now let's get to the main event. Today's CPG landscape has access to unprecedented data streams, syndicated and aggregate sales data, POS retail data, consumer data, DTC delivers direct access to shopping habits, and now this retail media data. This is econometrics, weather, political, and so many types of data that often brands can spend years building a data infrastructure, not being able to leverage it. Winners embed the data and results from it for insights in decision-making, and now there's retail media making it much more complex than it ever has. And as a result, for the first time in this full funnel marketing, AI makes data processing easier, relevant, including predictions of the future. With this many versions of the data, there's often many versions of the truth at brands. And now we have complexity called omnichannel, e-commerce, offline, 1P. In this episode, we take on the very challenge of decomposing this via the Nielsen IQ, one version of the truth, and what it means with Liz Buchanan, Global Head of Platform Transformation and Customer Success, and Troy Treangen, Head of Global Product Platforms and Applications. Liz and Troy, welcome. How are you both doing today?
Hey, Sri. Good to be with you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to speak to you about the space of data insights and what it actually takes to be able to report against all of that with one single version of the truth to activate for the consumer. Liz and Troy, before we get to the detailed questions that we've prepared for you today, it'll be great if you took a moment each. Maybe, Liz, we start with you. Can you give us a brief overview of Nielsen IQ and your role? And then, Troy, I'll ask you to give a brief overview of your role.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nielsen IQ is the world's leading consumer intelligence company. You might know us as one of the providers of market share. And we are a very global organization. In fact, we've just integrated with GfK, who many of you would have worked with, to form essentially a new and improved version of Nielsen IQ. My role within the company is to lead what's known as customer success, which is essentially the teams that work with our customers every single day to make sure that they're getting value from their investment with us and that we're helping them to drive all of the data and insights and analytics that we provide into action that helps their businesses grow. The platform transformation part of my role is actually where Troy and I get to work together quite a bit. I'm leading the rollout of our latest and greatest customer-facing technology all around the world. And I know we'll talk a bit more about that today, but my teams and I are really proud to work to take all of the cool stuff that Troy builds to market.
So I'm Troy Treangen. I'm accountable for building all of the software here at Nielsen IQ globally. So that includes everything from our back-end factories all the way to our front-end tools. So from a background standpoint, I was a technologist at heart. I graduated a computer science degree, did a bunch of roles in the middle, but now I'm back to kind of my passion, which is to help bring products to market that our clients consume.
Thank you for that summary, Liz and Troy. In the digital liner notes of this episode, we will place links to both your LinkedIn profiles, of course, Nielsen IQ's LinkedIn page, and of course, Nielsen IQ's corporate website. That way, the people listening can easily connect back with a simple click straight from their smartphones as they listen in. And so, here we go. Listen, Troy, you guys have been in the insights world and built your careers around data and insights, storytelling, helping brands grow at the end of the day. That's been your mission, and retailers in the process as well. So take some time each and tell us about your career paths to Nielsen IQ. What excites you about being at Nielsen IQ, and what would each of your advice be to anybody who wants to pursue a career in insights as well?
Yeah, I can start. I joined Nielsen IQ actually directly out of university. I've been here now about 16 years, and I got my first exposure to this type of, work, really the core of insights work and what it meant to tell stories with data through an internship that I had at General Mills. And I loved my experience working on a Yoplait sales story that we were going to take to a retailer, and just really, really enjoyed that experience. Felt like I had found something that kind of combined passions of mine, storytelling and being able to get creative with how the analytics were presented, and then understanding brands and getting to know what drove people to actually consume them was really fun. So when the opportunity came up to actually join Nielsen IQ, I took it, and I've been on a maybe non-traditional path at this organization. I've done a number of different roles within the organization, both commercial, and then when I talk about the non-traditional part, I've pivoted quite a bit into sort of our technology deployment, product space. And, for me, that is my advice to folks who want to pursue a career in this space, is to really look at where the industry is going, what's emerging. And I've always sort of kept an eye on that, whether it was, helping us, NIQ, with our own internal digital transformation, working with customers as they were first starting to ingest data for data lakes, and what then became, the backbone for all the AI work that's happening today, or now, of course, helping to roll out a brand new platform that we've just designed and built across 85 countries. And I think that kind of keeping your eye on where the industry is going and looking for opportunities to participate in those exciting projects and initiatives has been a real contributor to my career, and I'm sure it would be for others as well.
Yeah. I've been at Nielsen IQ for about 10 years now. Actually, I think September I'll be 10 years on the button. My career, though, has been kind of all over the place, right? So I mentioned earlier, I started as a computer scientist, wrote a lot of code myself for a food manufacturer, was at Conagra Foods. And then I wanted to go to a startup, and then I got into consulting, and then did a couple other roles in the middle. But then what brought me to Nielsen IQ was this passion for data and problem solving. So initially at Nielsen IQ, it was at on a lot more of our customer success or client success side with a couple different global accounts. But then I've morphed into now kind of product. And like I said, my passion is all about doing and building those items to bring to market. From just an advice standpoint, if you want to get into insights, I would say have a passion. If you have a passion for data and just kind of going into it, looking into it, trying to solve problems and new problems every single day, it's a very fun place to be. So our industry is very unstructured, right? New questions every day, new challenges every single day. And you get to jump all over the place and do things that you could never imagine just playing with some of these tools and technologies and data sets.
No debate there. A lot has changed in the last 3 years, and consumer habits have definitely reshaped themselves. I know in the industry, when I talk to people, we talk to people here, the CPG guys, a lot of people want to go back to this word called the pre-COVID era, but those days are long gone here. And as you mentioned, Troy, it's dynamically reshaping every day. How I interpret both your advices is two key words that came out of it. One is curiosity. Always be curious. Want to get to know better, bigger, better, faster, more. And then always have the sense, no matter who you are and what levels you reach, but want to be able to get into the data and dig out the insights and be able to separate the noise from the real ecosystem of what's really happening out there. And Liz, that really speaking of noise, that leads to my next question, which is for you, right? We throw around this word, one version of this truth. You yourself have tons of data assets. You're either partners with, integrated into NIQ, you built over time yourselves. What is one version of the truth, and how is Nielsen IQ really reporting out or leveraging one version of the truth for insights for brands and retailers?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And We, as you aptly point out, have lots of data, and it can be really difficult for our customers and frankly for ourselves sometimes to know what is noise and what in fact is important and what we need to pay attention to. And so we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that we first and foremost have what we call the full view, which is sort of the most comprehensive understanding of consumer behavior and consumer dynamics. And that for us includes a number of different dimensions. So it is our global footprint. We're very proud of our global footprint. It's the category and industry coverage now expanded in a much bigger way to tech and durables in partnership with GfK, as well as our core, which has always been the FMCG space. It's breadth and it's depth. So it's making sure that we have complete coverage of whatever universe we're looking at, whether that's now, of course, the omni landscape or any specific category or industry, beverage and alcohol, pet, et cetera, beauty. And it really means then making that accessible in a way that is easy and kind of, to use your term, that one version of the truth that feels like a really consistent experience no matter where you are around the world, what problem you might be trying to solve. And that's what actually our new technology and platform aim to do, is to make all of that data that constitutes or creates the full view really accessible. And we'll talk a bit more about the platform that we do, that we use to do that, I'm sure, today. But that's how we think about one version of the truth. That's how we think about the full view.
Activating against the one version of the truth cannot be easy. And what I don't know and what I'm hoping to decompose today is, does Nielsen IQ have several products that represent one version of the truth? Is it just one product where you go to for everything? Are the insights different? What are these product names? And Troy, I'm going to pick on you for that question as the captain of the product space and building it. And then you even said you have coding experience, which I'm jealous of because I don't know how to code anything. So, Troy, tell us, what are the Nielsen IQ products that are available for brands and retailers, and what role or need states do they satisfy for brands and retailers?
Yeah, and to make you more jealous, I do still play around and write some code on the weekend sometimes. Not in our products, but more for just fun things on the side. But
he said it, now I got to ask him, what are those fun?
Using Python and some of the new technologies to go get quicker insights into... Anyway, my kids are in college, and just to help them with a few things, it's kind of fun. So
I feel like you're the guy I can chat 2 hours about AI.
Yeah, we can. And I'll probably hit on this topic maybe a little bit later today. But yeah,
looking forward to it.
Yeah. So when you talk about product names, at the holistic, very top tier of our product definition, we have 2 core products, right? Omni sales, and that's what is all about the store and an item being at the center of. And that store is either a physical brick and mortar store, a website, or some version of that. So omni sales is our overarching full view product for what we would traditionally call retail measurement, right? And then underneath that, we have sub products of, if you want to get a faster read or a more detailed read on Amazon sales and share. If you want a couple of different reads of the historic products we've had, which XAOC and some of the other breakouts, that's all underneath. But the overarching high level product definition is omni sales. On the other side, which is Omni Shopper, this is where the consumer is at the center. And then that rolls up to another series of products that we have, also in that full view mentality. So when you combine both of those, you can get both sides of the story, right? Where are people buying across all of the different outlets that exist? And then who is buying? What are the dynamics of those shopping behaviors, which is what Omni Shopper brings to the table. Now, the good part is what we've done here at NIQ over the last couple of years is we've brought all of those products into one core data model and ultimately one factory and front-end tool set, right? And that's what we call Discover. So Discover is the front end that brings all those data sets to life. So our consumers of those assets and our clients can go in and look at all those different analytics within it. And what we have done, and what Liz mentioned just a few minutes ago, is that product now is all over the world in 85 markets. And depending on the market, those definitions of Omni Shopper and Omni Sales, adjust slightly, but all with the same premise of getting the full view, the best breed and best full view that we can. But that now is, that's kind of our mission, right? All 3 of those together, all over the world is and all actually in process now. More than in process, it's everywhere.
And Troy, you talked about one data model bringing all these together. So is there a vision on the future where some of these products will integrate into a fewer set of products? where the one data model can be leveraged?
So yeah, we already have some of those today. So when you actually get into some of the more back-end technology related items, some of those can be taken advantage of. I think even in Discover, when you start actually comparing, omni sales and omni shopper content all within the same dashboards and some of those same analytical outputs, some of that is already kind of coming together. The key benefit here is when you talk about a common data model and you can talk about common reference data, I mean, that's almost the holy grail to spin between these assets and really understand numbers tying, why things are shifting. That is important. And that's what we've solved for here now at NIQ.
Thank you for that. So Liz, you guys are constantly rolling out new products because with this sort of a one version of the data model that Troy has just eloquently described over here, if you are truly leveraging that one data platform, I'm sure you're bringing this together globally to every country you do business in and every vendor, like several of the brands in the industry that you partner with, right? So give us a overview of how you're rolling out this new platform globally, who's using it, and then what is the downstream outcome in the day jobs that marketers, people in sales, and various brands can really use it for?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's what I spend all day thinking about. So it's very top of mind. We've been on a journey now for about a year, and we're hoping to have the majority of the program, let's call it, complete by the end of this year to get Discover into 85 countries and to every single NIQ customer, and to really embed it as the new system of record tool set for our customers who are working with either Omni Shopper, Omni Sales, or both. And that has been a really, really fun project to be a part of. First off, because what Troy and his team have built, I think, is really unlike anything else that we've seen in the industry. We get great customer feedback about some of the really novel features that the team have spent some quality R&D time thinking through. And it's been a really fun time. As you mentioned, Sri, earlier, the industry has reinvented itself a bit kind of in a post-COVID world. And we took the opportunity to say, yeah, let's actually ride that wave and let's think about new ways that we can solve these, new problems and bring new capability to market. So a lot of work has gone into that R&D to think differently about simple things like, hey, the data selection process in most of these tools can be kind of confusing. How do we simplify it? And, how do we make this much more intuitive, eliminating the need to have a PhD in NIQ to make sure that you can actually understand what data you're accessing? How do we create common product standards no matter what country you're in around the world? And as we've grown very organically, but also through acquisition in many markets around the world, you end up with stuff that you have to think through. How do we converge this? How do we make this a much simpler experience, especially for those customers that work with us across, dozens of countries? And we're privileged to have a lot of those. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of reset and say, how do we improve on all of those dimensions? It's been really interesting to see some of the benefits come to life. We, I think, have taken for granted in markets like the US that we've been working in sort of this on-demand, disaggregated data universe where we have this big data playground for a long time. But many of our markets around the world and in parts of the world like Southeast Asia, parts of Latin America, still operate in a very different retail environment where we're actually collecting data through a number of different ways, whether that's more traditional scan-based or more of an audit methodology in some places. And so moving those markets to this data playground, this on-demand disaggregated data model has been really exciting. We just got some customer feedback hot off the presses this morning that a client, went through the transition to Discover and had expected they were going to have to keep a number of their legacy reports sort of as is because the organization had just always looked at the data the exact same way and didn't feel like they could kind of reimagine any of those corporate reports. And in fact, because of some of this new capability, this new utility to twist and turn the data differently than what they've been able to do before, every single one of them is now based in kind of a new Discover, reimagined version, which we're really excited about. So from the sales organization, to marketing, to insights, to what has become a very important customer for us in the technology and data stewards and the AI ML teams that are every day thinking about how do we make this kind of data science work for us. All of those teams have become very important, and we've created new capabilities to make sure that we can support them too. But they all have a set of capabilities within Discover that can meet their unique needs, and we've thought a lot about how we make that kind of at the center of how we deploy the platform to each customer.
For the benefit of our audience, Liz, if the key word that I want them to take away, if there was one keyword, is that discover, that's what they should be asking more questions about?
I think so. Yeah, exactly. Ask us about Discover. We would love to tell you. And if you haven't seen it yet, you will very soon. So it's coming. As Troy said, it's in all 85 countries, but not every client has access yet. We have a very intentional sort of migration plan through the end of this year. And all customers, will have the opportunity to use it and start to get that value that I talked about from it. So it's a great opportunity to ask us about Discover if you haven't already.
And Troy, we'll go a little bit out of script here and ask you, is Discover connected back to the data model, and is the data model global?
Yes, data model and the actual both Omni Sales and Omni Shopper, all is common throughout the world. And the Discover is the engine that is on top of it and visualization capability on top of what you just mentioned. So yes is the answer to your question. And, that's kind of the beauty of this, right? One question we get asked all the time by our clients is, I work with you in 10 markets, 20 markets, 50 markets. I want to be consistent. I want the experience to be the same. That's what this now allows, right? And it's a very important thing as our clients become more regional in some cases, become more global in some cases. People move from country to country. We're at an all-time high, it feels like, where people are, supporting other countries in different countries because post-COVID, people can almost live anywhere. And to be able to have experiences the same, or if not similar, it's a huge benefit.
Let me remind the audience that today I'm speaking with Liz Buchanan and Troy Treangen from Nielsen IQ. Troy, now we get to your happy place.
Yeah.
And the happy place is largely, I would say, a buzzword in the CPG industry, and that is artificial intelligence, better known as AI. And then you add ML on top of that. Most people don't even know what ML is. Take a second to decompose those two words with us, but more importantly, also tell us, how are AI and ML featuring in Discover and the global data model?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, I think we're at an all-time high, or the hype cycle right now for Gen AI is obviously it's something we've never seen before. And that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for the industry. I mean, it's obviously some incredible capability that's been brought to market. So, there's many folks that want to take advantage of that, us included. So, but what I will say is when you think about artificial intelligence or machine learning, this is not something that's new to Nielsen IQ. Like, our company couldn't exist if we didn't do these things many, 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 many moons ago, right? Artificial intelligence is not a new thing. You can go back 10, 20, even potentially 30 years, and there's references to, capabilities being built. Obviously, that's been accelerated with some of the computing capability and some of these things that have kind of came out. And then when we started doing all this stuff, right, you can imagine we started building it from the back to the front. So if you think of our core of our business and you reference the data model, we got to get the data right. We got to get all of our reference data that tags items. We got to get the codes to mean what they mean. We got to be able to link data from one asset to another asset. All of those things have been AI or machine learning capabilities and enhancements we've made forever. No, but what the new generation of AI is doing, it's moving more and more to the middle and the front of these capabilities, right? When we get into the conversational space or the analytical insight space, right? The requests right now today are more like, in the past they were, I just need to have better, more quality, more accurate data. And that was what we focused on. How do we get our coding mechanisms and our tools and our cross-country capabilities as best and as smart as they could be? Today, though, it started to shift. Like, you still want that, but now it's on the application itself. When I see this chart, tell me what this means. Tell me where this goes next. Give me some interaction that shows I can do it in a conversational way. All of those things are things that, as you can imagine, are being researched, will be further incorporated, but that shift is now happening or has happened, and it's happening very, very fast. So, and I think you'll see that from us as well within the Discover platform, and it's a very, very exciting place to be right now.
And Troy, one of those things what AI and ML enable is they give this unprecedented ability for anybody to be able to use them as tech capabilities and actually build their own data lakes, their own data platforms. And I hear this a lot in the industry. We've had quite a few guests here who've come and talked about using Snowflake and things of that nature. And a lot of them seem to be hell-bent on this mission of, I'm going to use 1P data and build my own data platform. Curious how Nielsen IQ thinks about that. How do you support it? Do you think it's the right way to go?
Yeah, I mean, look, we want to support any type of way that our clients want to consume and want to help or want to, grow value in the assets that we have. So one of the fundamental things we did when we built our most modern platform we have is we looked at it. Everything is pretty much in an open source way, very open methodology where we can connect and our clients can connect and any layers of our technology stack. So that's point number one. We also do use capabilities like you mentioned, Snowflake and some of the other larger technology capabilities. We do have those features and functions, and we'll do any of those or deploy in any which way that, like I said, that they want. Having clients that come to us and say, I want to build everything in my own data lake, that's not a bad thing for us. That's actually still a good thing. And what we have is we have all the tools to make that happen and actually happen at scale. But what we find, those three, is that is not the solve for every single use case, right? It might be a solve for 50% to 70% to 20%, whatever. Pick a number. We want to light those up, but there still are use cases where if I want to get an actual ACV number for this very specific custom thing that I need to do right now, for an analysis, I might want to go and Discover to get that. Or if there's an analytical output where, we have a price and promotion strategy and I need to get some further insight into that, or I have this innovation that's going on and you get something there. Like there's other things out there. And again, like I said, is what we find is, all tools ultimately end up getting used, but we love it when there's scenarios of, hey, can you help us work in our data lake and make it more effective and efficient? That's a very, very fun question for us. And I think we have incredible assets that can help more than I think people realize.
I think your approach is a good one, Troy, but I, for one, feel, you guys have been in this space for God knows how many decades, right? And what comes with experience is expertise. Trying to recreate that for apples to apples is, I think, virtually impossible. That's the whole reason why there's always one-offs. You got to come back here, dig into this data point, that insight, things of that nature. So I would advise brands in general, before you embark on such a mission, really think about what you're trying to choose and don't try to do it all. Be purposeful on that mission. Would you agree, Troy?
Yeah, 100% agree. But again, but there is still value, right? There are things that have there. 100% agree with that statement. But, there are some really cool emerging technologies and data share capabilities and cloud-to-cloud copy capabilities and us being able to give you access to our Parquet files, in real time to write queries against. There's just a lot of technical capability these days that can just drive efficiency for specific use cases. And you just got to go into it, like you said, eyes wide open and learn a little bit. But we love that type of back and forth just as well as you want to log in and use Discover. We don't shy away from any of it.
Liz, I thought the logical next question would be for you and me to debate the use of Parquet files. So let's go there first. I'm just kidding, Liz. I'm glad to see the smiles on both your faces because I wouldn't have a clue, Troy. So I'll ask you to decompose what Parquet files really means for our audience.
Yeah, I heard that. Fair. Yeah. Right. Well, right. Well, so Parquet is a universal cloud-based data model or data structure, right? So there are benefits. It's a highly compressed cloud native format that has a bunch of unique benefits for clients, right? So there's a lot of technical benefits. I'll leave it at that. And when, that's kind of how some of our foundational engine works. And this is where speed to market, technical capability, when you ask the question about how do you work in my own, and help clients in their own data lakes, I know there are these technical buzzwords, but they are important for activation when clients want to go down that route.
I also think there's a ton of efficiency that we can drive. So if you think about the way probably for the last 10 years that customers have been populating their data lakes, it's oftentimes been through flat files, SFFs, et cetera. And that likely means that you are storing and having to continuously update and manage more data than you likely need in order to solve the problems that you then, persist downstream. So some of the things that like Parquet that Troy mentioned and the investments that we're making in some of the cloud to cloud capabilities actually helped us streamline all of the data that is in fact accessed to just that's needed to solve the given problem or use case, which is obviously important when the commercial model around cloud is so different than some of the legacy commercial models. It can be quite expensive to store things you don't need or to compute against things that are larger than are required. And so that's an area that we spend a lot of time working with customers to help them sort of optimize what's the right data for the right problem and the right way to access it.
Understood. I knew you couldn't wait to jump into that conversation.
I know.
What did you say?
You said Parquet, I got excited.
I feel like very unqualified at the moment. But Liz, we started this whole conversation saying you're the captain for Nielsen IQ customer success.
Yes.
What does that word actually mean to you personally? And then how are you leading this initiative of customer success for Nielsen IQ, not just here in the US, but globally?
I don't know if I'm the captain, but I have a lot of very good captains. I'll tell you that. So customer success is a big organization at NIQ. It is probably something that maybe is less familiar, a term or team that's less familiar in our industry, but it's quite prevalent in the SaaS world. You'll see oftentimes that customer success teams exist for some of those organizations that have sort of oriented for a long time. We traditionally, client service and have really pivoted to this concept of customer success because that is our mission to help make our customers successful, to think about how we drive value every single day for them, to make sure that they're getting the value out of the capabilities, products, data, tools, applications that they license from us. But also it is a nod to the fact that the industry has evolved and that we do see that technology can play a bigger role in how we make customers successful. And so if you think about the different types of roles that people in my team play, it's everything from sitting down with a customer and demoing our capabilities to actually leading them through the deployment of new technology, helping them to get trained and onboarded. We have industry insights teams, which then work with them every single day to make sure that they're getting value and doing thought leadership and driving kind of higher order insights and value from the data. And then consultants who kind of are the wrapper around everything and do everything from customer service and customer care through to making sure that, the customer is getting kind of their end-to-end needs met by NIQ. So everything that we do is about improving that customer experience, creating that, customer success model and making sure that ultimately all the investments that we're making and certainly all the investments that the customer are making are paying off on both sides.
Can you address the global versus US? Is your approach different? Is it the exact same thing? And then how do you work with the various Nielsen IQ teams in different countries?
Yep. So my organization is very global with folks in every single one of those 85 markets. And the model does differ a little bit from market to market, though a big part of what we're doing and Discover being in every single country really enables this is actually getting more consistent in the way that we define those service sort of lines that I just described and the way that we actually work with customers to make sure that they understand what they can expect from us in terms of servicing and customer success. We have teams that focus on just local customers. We have teams that focus on regional customers, and we have kind of above market teams that focus on HQ, which could be the global relationship with a large customer, regional relationship, et cetera. And that's the same on across retail, our manufacturer, our financial services customers. And that's, I think, a very important part of our model is making sure that customers understand that no matter their sort of org structure, their, the model that they've set up their organization to operate around, we can mirror that. And we also can make sure that they're getting the best from the talent in the industry. We pride ourselves on hiring, training, and making sure that we have the best talent across the industry and, making sure that everyone is working on behalf of our customers to add that value, drive business growth.
And Liz, to that very point, you're touching that many countries, you're trying to keep your processes consistent. How do you actually get feedback from customers? And then as you get feedback, how do you pass it off to our guest here, Mr. Troy, so he can build roadmaps with the rest of Nielsen?
Yeah. This is such a fun part of the role. And I think it's actually been really inspiring for our customer success teams around the world to be able to do more of this, especially as Discover and Omni Sales, Omni Shopper have been coming to market. We created a team within customer success called Voice of Customer. And that team does nothing but think every single day about the voice of the customer and in the voice of the customer. So they're working every single day with our customer success teams around the world to take in feedback. We've embedded some processes for crowdsourcing feedback directly into Discover. So there's actually a way that you as a customer working in Discover can say, hey, I'd really love if this feature existed. And then other users can plus it up and say, yeah, I agree. This is the way that I'd like to use this feature. And so we've built sort of the in the moment opportunity to provide us feedback directly into the product design. That has been very popular because what customers see is, there'll be top items on that list that then show up a couple of sprints later as real feature functionality in the platform. So their feedback is not only being heard, but it's being executed on by Troy and his team through the product management process that we have internally. So that's a very important part of kind of how we do what we do. And then ultimately, we're constantly out talking to customers, whether it's through something like an NPS survey, our advisory boards, or just day-to-day, hallway conversation. All of that goes into how we develop product and ultimately what we prioritize in terms of, what we develop next.
And then what's the process for, you just mentioned that's what goes into prioritizing. What's the process of synthesizing all of this and handing it off to a partner like Troy and the product teams?
Yeah. So we have a number of processes around product management, which sort of facilitate that. So Troy and his team, have forums essentially where the voice of customer team will come with a very specific set of requirements that are anchored in a use case or a particular either pain point, it's sort of a piece of detractor feedback or a piece of promoter feedback. Like this feature is really, really beloved and we need to amplify it, or we need to make sure that more users are getting access to it. So it needs to come up in training much earlier as a feature that can be utilized. Those are the types of sort of specific feedback that goes into the product management process that then Troy and his team run. And they ultimately look at all of the feedback that comes in, both in terms of new things we want to invest in, the R&D that they're doing and working with customers to understand the potential for different features and capabilities, and then our sort of in the moment, BAU feedback that we're receiving every single day. And there's a, process that we go through to prioritize that, figure out which things are going to have, the biggest impact in terms of making customers happy and roll them out. And we've been doing that, I would say, at a very rapid pace over the last year. There's a lot more to come, but hopefully customers are seeing from us that change in the platform. In fact, sometimes we get feedback that we're developing things too quickly. So we've had to figure out how we kind of strike that right balance between, rolling out new features and meeting those customer expectations, and then also the change management associated with it. It's been fun.
Thank you for that, Liz. I'm glad it's still fun. Troy, we're going to go to you for the last question for today, which is the dreaded roadmap word. Would love for you to take a second, fast forward and tell us, what can your partners here and your clients expect from a roadmap perspective in, let's say, the next 18 to 24 months? What areas are you focused on?
Yeah, so just to echo one of Liz's comments she just made, just real quick before I answer that is, we do release code every 2 weeks. So I think we are very agile. Everything we do is all built on speed. So I think that's one of the things I would just continue to say when you think about the roadmap is we are moving fast, and that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a failed fast. Sometimes it's, wow, this feature is incredible, and have it. But that is one just core capability or core mission we have, which is go and react as fast as we can. But when you go back to just kind of the roadmap looking forward and say, hey, okay, what's the focus, right, over the next 18 to 24? I think it comes up to 3 sub-buckets. Number one, I talked about Omni Sales and Omni Shopper earlier. Those will continue to expand. Our full view will continue to get bigger and bigger. Liz mentioned, integration, what we just did with GFK. You'll see obviously benefits of that, right? No matter what market you're in, for obvious reasons, right? So I think that's a no-brainer, but you'll see more of that whole view come together. Number two, you actually asked me a question on this when you talked about AI ML. Like I said, most of where we've historically spent our time is on the back end side of things because getting items right, cleaner, But you will see a lot more of those features and functions and those capabilities show up within the platform. That's number two. And then the last thing I'll say is like our mission in general from a roadmap basis is Discover is going to be that single front door to all NIQ assets. And no matter what market you're in, that will be is the expectation. So are we all the way there yet with, all of them? No, we've done a lot of acquisitions and mergers, right? So in general, more and more of those analytical capabilities and connectivity points and guided flows and some of the other terms that you can imagine will start showing up, or some have already shown up, but that will still be accelerated based on my points I made a little bit ago. So just in summary, it's broaden the full view, many attributes in that world. AI, ML, Gen AI especially, expansion into the front end. And then 3, we'll take advantage of all the acquisitions and mergers we've done to bring all the additional benefits in the front end experience.
Dynamically discover your future using Discover. Do you like that, Troy?
Yeah, there you go.
That's why my own personal career has been anchored on selling and not marketing. But let me remind the audience that you can find all of our content on cpgguys.com and a web browser URL. And of course, all of our content means 7 days of the week. And if you or your company has some thought partnership to contribute to our community discussion, drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. Again, contact@cpgguys.com. And maybe you can join us on the podcast just like Troy and Liz did. Don't forget to drop us the reading at cpgguys.com or the navigation bar at the top of our website. Why this is important is you help us shape the show. You tell us who to bring our what topics to discuss. As we did today, the world of one version of the truth from Nielsen IQ directly. Take you to our 23,500 followers on LinkedIn. The show doesn't exist without you. We know that 23,500 followers on LinkedIn is a lot. And I want to thank each one of you for continuing to engage with us, whether it's a direct message, whether it's the likes, clicks, comments you do, whether you watch our LinkedIn live videos or download our podcast. So thank you to each one of you. Troy, Liz, it's that time we have to say bye-bye, but thank you for joining me on today's episode.
It was good to be with you. Thanks, Sri.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
That's a wrap, folks. We'll see you soon on another episode of the CPG Guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.